Hey everyone, welcome to the Bay Area Content Marketing Meetup. Today I'm thrilled to have Andi Robinson. Andi is Global Digital Content and Brand Leader at Corteva. And it's an exciting day, actually, what Andi is going to talk about a global content marketing program. She told me earlier she just launched a big campaign internally. So she's got morning and evening presentations of that campaign. Maybe she'll refer to it in today's talk. So today you're going to learn how to build a content marketing practice in a global environment. You're going to learn how to approach the tools and resources you'll need, develop a content philosophy, get leadership buy-in, and create a content marketing training program for your marketing organization. Andi, thanks for being with us and take it away.
Sure, no problem. Thanks so much, Dennis. I'm glad to be here. Hello, everyone from, well, it's not snowy Indiana anymore. It was snowy yesterday, and then the sun came out and it quickly went away. But we had a brief snow shower there for a little while. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can you see the slides?
Yep. Yes, we can.
Great. So as Dennis said, my name is Andi Robinson. I'm the Global Digital Content and Brand Leader for Corteva AgriScience. I tend to leave the brand off because it's a really long title. But I am also a small business marketing consultant here in Central Indiana. So I help local businesses with everything related to marketing, not just content marketing, but I advise on, all aspects of digital marketing and communications for them. I have 17 years of experience across a wide variety of industries, most of them regulated, such as pharma and legal and insurance and some others. So this regulatory environment or regulated environment is not new to me. And I'm going to explain how that can lead to a lot of complexity when you're thinking about your content marketing. And, as Dennis said, I'm at a big global company, but a lot of these ideas can translate to smaller companies if you work in a smaller company as well. So feel free to ask me questions as I go along.
Love the shirt.
Oh, thank you. I think I got that at Content Marketing World maybe 2 years ago. So I forget who was giving them out, but yeah, those were good. Okay, so my role came out of what was a humongous merger. I think it was like the 18th largest merger in US history. And that was the merger between DuPont and Dow Chemical. So these two humongous conglomerates joined together, and then they split into three different businesses. So it was a marriage and divorce, all planned from the beginning, but it's been a long journey. The merger was announced in December of 2015. Ironically, the same day our merger was announced, my husband, who works for a smaller company in Indiana, they also announced a merger, and his boss stood up at the beginning of the day and said, "I really thought we'd make big news today." DuPont merging, we're not going to make any news. So unfortunately, it was ironic that those both happened on the same day. But Corteva AgriScience was born out of that, like I said, that merger, and it's made up of three businesses from those heritage organizations: the DuPont crop protection business, Dow AgriSciences, which was a subsidiary of Dow, and the Pioneer Seed business, which was owned by DuPont for the last 20 years or so. So this is our brand logo. You see it behind me in my background there. You can kind of get an idea of what the circle with the furrows are. So those are furrows from farming. And really what our name means is the heart of nature. So it comes from two different words. Dennis and I were talking about this before. People came on the line about how companies, these days global companies have to come up with unique names. And there's a lot that goes into that. I think we originally had 75 different names we were looking at. And then we settled on Corteva. And we have to explain to people how to say that because it is a made up word. So we do business in 140 countries throughout the world, and we have around 21,000 employees. So I like to say we're like a startup with 21,000 employees because we're a brand new company. We just started being traded on the New York Stock Exchange in June of 2019. So we've really only been official for under 2 years now. And we have three main product lines, and then some smaller ones as well. Our seed product line, which is made up, obviously, we sell seeds. The majority of those are what you see here on the screen. Much of it is our Pioneer seed business, but we also have a couple of other seed businesses that we are brand names that we sell under. Our crop protection business. So this is all the insecticides, fungicides, herbicides, all of that. That go on crops all over the world. I mean, we have products that work on vegetable crops and fruit crops and row crops and every crop you can think of. And then our third is our digital agriculture business. So this is software, basically. We make software that farmers can use to help run their business. So within each of those, probably I don't know what the total number is, but when you think about all of our different products, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of products that we sell. When it comes to our stakeholders, you can imagine farmers are one of our stakeholders, but we also work with retailers, dealers, regulators, the food chain. So we have very close relationships with all kinds of companies along the food chain. Fun fact, our canola oil is used by Yum brands. So if you go to Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, a lot of those Yum branded restaurants, you'll be eating our canola oil that we process. Collaborators, there's a lot of collaboration that goes on in the agriculture world. Smaller companies collaborate with larger companies. We collaborate with universities, and other organizations to come up with the best outcomes for farmers. And then obviously consumers are a big stakeholder as well. It has subsided a little bit in the last couple of years, but there for a while, there was a lot of pushback to what they call big ag. It's like a dirty word, but without big ag, we wouldn't have as much food as we do in the world. So, there are a lot of people who don't believe in what we do. So when it comes to a marketing perspective, our products are regulated at the country level and sometimes even at the state level in big countries like the United States. So for instance, in California, we have to get special approval for our products from the state legislative or the state regulatory body. In general, we deal with the country level regulatory agencies. So for instance, we could have in the United States a formulation of an insecticide that is approved in the United States to kill one type of bug on a certain crop. And we could have a similar formulation in a different country that has been approved by that country's regulatory body to work on a different insect on a different crop. So there's a lot of complexity around how our products go to market. We have separate marketing teams in every country that we do business in. Or I should say in every country that we market in. We don't have 140 marketing teams. And so some countries we don't have a very active, proactive marketing function. But in about 50 or 60 countries, we have separate marketing teams. So I work with all of those different marketing teams. And so you can start to see the complexity that we have in our organization because there's a lot of moving parts. We have different go-to-market strategies in different countries and sometimes even in the same country. So in some countries, we have sales agents who sell both seed and crop protection products. In the big countries like the United States, Brazil, some European countries, we have separate sales forces that sell Pioneer seeds, that sell Brevant seeds, that sell crop protection. Sometimes they're calling directly on farmers. Sometimes they're working through dealers and retailers. Again, lots of complexity going on. And then we also have a lot of external pressure. So, things like weather, tariffs, politics play a role sometimes in what we do. Currency is a big factor when you think about a global organization like ours. And then lastly, we've kind of been building this plane as we're flying it, we like to say, because for the last 5 years that we've been going through this merger and spin, we've been trying to keep selling, but also putting a lot of new processes in place, a lot of new technology, a lot of new platforms. and really kind of try, the ground seems to always be shifting under our feet. So when I was put in this role, when the merger was announced, I was like, oh gosh, where do I start with content marketing? And this is kind of like what my world looks like. Everything everywhere. And sometimes you're not sure who to talk to because there's new roles and new people in roles. And so it can be a challenge. The last several years has been exhausting. But we're starting to smooth out the edges and really put things in place that are really helpful and beneficial for the selling of our products. So that's just the foundation for kind of the rest of the presentation here. Content marketing, I say, is fairly new because one of the earliest examples of content marketing actually comes from agriculture, and that is from John Deere. I think in 1895, 1865, something like that, they started the Furrow, which was a publication, print at the time, that didn't really talk about their products much, but gave educational and informational information to their farmers, to people who farm the land, and they still have it going today. So it's not new to agriculture, necessarily as a whole, but we don't do a lot of it across all agriculture companies. We focus on product benefits and we sell our products. We have an example internally called Boas Practicas Agricolas, which is out of Brazil, and that stands for good agricultural practices. Hopefully there's nobody who speaks Portuguese and is cursing me for the way I said that. But because of regulatory issues in Brazil, we have a lot of reasons why or a lot of rules around when we can talk about our products. So this program is a content marketing program that was started several years ago, actually before the merger started. And they have topics, like 5 or 6 different topics, and they post all kinds of content about these different topics. So I don't remember what they all are, but they do white papers, they have their own social media. So it really is a full-fledged content marketing campaign that's been going strong for several years for us down there. So when I started to think about how I was going to kind of manage all of this and bring content marketing to our organization, I did a mind map, and these are kind of some of the things that I thought of that would be helpful to, that we needed to have in place. So one of those was leadership buy-in. So I work with our marketing leaders all over the organization to make sure they understand what we're doing in content marketing, what the importance of it is. I also pulled them in when I started our content council, which is in purple there in the middle. We have a team, a cross-functional team of about 40 individuals that are from communications, from marketing, they're from all over the company, all of the globe. And we meet once a month and talk about topics related to content marketing and content marketing best practices. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Tools and resources. Out of my digital team, I have the responsibility for the most platforms. So I have 5 platforms under my role. And so all of those touch content marketing in some way and are available globally for all of our marketing teams. Our content philosophy, I'll talk about that here in a minute. It was one of the first things that we did as a content council, was to come up with a philosophy on how Corteva content should behave out in the world. And then a training program. So that's something that we're still working out, but we've got a good start. We just finished up a project with our agency to create a content marketing workshop toolkit. So if somebody locally wants to run a content marketing workshop, they can take that information. It has the slides, it has mural boards, since everything is virtual now. It has all of the facilitator guides and everything in there to run a successful content marketing campaign at the local level. So we're really trying to make people understand the value of content marketing. And as Dennis alluded to, today we're rolling out our first global content marketing campaign. So at the global level around the topic of soil health. So, we had a rollout meeting this morning, and we'll have one this evening with all of our program leaders, which are people who are responsible for certain portfolios, as well as our marketers and digital marketers. So like I said, Content Council was one of the first things that I did. Mind map, yep. One of the first things that I did was create this team, and I said, look, we're going to work along 2 tracks, because not everybody is as familiar with content marketing or will use, pure content marketing in their efforts. So we work along 2 tracks, content and content marketing. So you can see the content side is just like, what are some new ways that we can bring different types of content to our organization that we don't typically use? What are best practices around content? Like, don't put a super technical blog post out there that's 5,000 words. Nobody's going to read it. So those types of things. And then we disseminate that throughout the organization. And then the content marketing side, much of what I've been talking about around, the content marketing workshop, what is content marketing? What is the importance to the organization? And then in order to, make sure those leaders were engaged, I actually asked them to nominate people locally to be on the team. So that's how we formed this, or the Content Council. I said, give me your people who are passionate about content, have influence amongst their peers. So that was a big requirement. I wanted to make sure that people were going to be engaged in this team and be able to share what we were developing at the council level with their local teams. So that also helps those leaders understand that this is for real. We're doing this. And then, whoops, went the wrong way. There we go. So this is our content philosophy, and it is basically a guideline or a North Star for content creation. It's nothing really kind of groundbreaking or mystical, but putting it on paper and making sure that people are aware of it was the first step. And we set out to answer the question, what do you want your content to do, and how should it make people feel? And then I snagged this is on our SharePoint site. We have an internal SharePoint site called Content Next, #Content Next, which has all of this information on it, along with all of our best practices and everything like that. But I snagged a concept from Chris Penn. Some of you may know him from the content marketing world, where we have kind of guidelines to determine whether or not a piece of content is good or not. And basically it says, if your piece of content that you've created only aligns to one of the items on this list, it might be worth revisiting to see that if you can improve it. If a piece of content aligns to 2 of these items, it's probably okay to use. And if a piece of content aligns to 3 or more of these items, it's likely to be amazing content. So this is something that, we shared out globally, not just to marketers, but to everyone in the organization. So we had a global article that we put out that showcased what this content philosophy is. Next, when we talk about tools for the job, like I said, I have a lot of tools underneath my role, but my colleagues are responsible for different areas of digital marketing. So web, e-commerce, CRM, they're also responsible for several tools. And we wanted to make sure that they talk to each other. And we're still in the process of integrating some of this. But you can see campaign management is there in the middle. And then we have several others that are going to be connected, like CMS, our graphic design software, DAM, sales enablement, email, or marketing automation, and social media. And then there are a few others that are part of this toolkit, but not necessarily connected to campaign management. We have an interactive media platform that we use to create experiences for our website. SEO, so we have a system we use for that, and then CRM. So not everything is connected, and we're still, like I said, on that journey to get everything connected, but it takes a lot of time and effort. If you've never done integrations, it's not a simple task. People are like, oh yeah, you just connect the 2, right? I'm like, yeah, right. So there's a lot that goes into it. So for us, our brand logo slide here, we use Welcome for our CMP, AEM for web, Adobe Creative Cloud for our graphic. Binder is what we use for our DAM. That's our enterprise-wide DAM. So it's not just marketing. That's also under my role. Fun fact, internally, we call our DAM Agricasa. We had a naming contest to build hype up for the new dam, and Agricasa means agricultural vault in Turkish, and it was actually the one that won the naming contest. So Showpad for sales enablement, Eloqua for marketing automation. Right now we use Sprinkler for social media management, but we're going through the RFP process right now, so I don't know if that'll still be true in the next 6 months. And then we use Saros for interactive content, SEMrush, and Salesforce for our CRM. The other thing that we wanted to make sure we do from a content perspective and a content marketing perspective is to really break down silos. And that's the reason for us creating or making these global tools available to the entire organization so that other people can see what you're doing. You can share content between, even if you're not having the same exact marketing campaigns or you don't have the same exact products that you're selling, you can still get inspiration and ideas, or use a piece of content and, you know, just tweak it a little bit for your local purposes. That's also part of the reason for the Content Council being cross-functional and cross-regional, is to really share those best practices and share campaign ideas. And the more we can do that and break down those silos, the better our organization will be. The other thing we try to do is be flexible because we do have all of those different use cases. So you can see on the left there, these are some of our web pages, and we have certain components that we use that are common across all of our websites. So people can take those components and build a page. But we also recognize that there are some local use cases where our components just won't meet the local needs. And so that's why we onboarded Saros. And so while the items on the right are from our Pioneer and Corteva websites, you can see they have a little bit of a different look and feel. In some cases, they're interactive. So if people can click on them and have pop-ups where they can tell a story. You can have growing phrenology charts. So a phrenology chart is kind of this that you see right here, where you see something growing from little to big. We use that a lot in agriculture. So we wanted to make sure that we provided flexibility within a framework. It's what we call it, flexibility within a framework. So give them the guidelines, but also give them some flexibility. Otherwise, they're just gonna ignore you basically and not do what you want them to do. So everybody thinks they're unique, and that may be true for some cases. You know, the US has a much larger marketing team than some of our smaller countries, but we wanna make sure that we can meet as many people's needs locally as possible. The other thing I knew when I started this function is that we didn't have a lot of resources. I'm basically it when it comes to content marketing at the global level. And so, we use the tools we have available to us, whether that be SharePoint, where we've created a SharePoint site. This is, from the top left is a picture from our Content Next site. And we actually use Saros to create this filtered content, so you can click on one of the topics and filter down. The Content Council actually creates our own content. So there's an article here, preparing for a digital content audit checklist, that was created by one of our council members. What is a content roadmap? This is an interactive graphic that was created using Saros by me, actually. And that is on our Content Next site as well. And then there's, video. Obviously, we use Stream internally for video. So we use what we have and do the best that we can with the resources that we have. And that's another reason why collaboration is really important. I want to make sure I'm good on time here. Oh, we're at the bottom of the hour already? Should I keep going or should I stop?
Oh, no, keep going, keep going.
Okay. The education, like I said, we have a lot of tools available to us. We use LinkedIn Learning, we use eConsultancy, we have WalkMe. I also worked with an agency to create a content marketing playbook. So this was the precursor to the content workshop toolkit. And it basically lays out how you would create a content marketing campaign. So all of the steps that you would need to go through, all the resources that you would need. And this is really to help educate our people internally. Communication is key. I actually come from a communication background. We use the Microsoft Office suite, so Yammer, Teams, Outlook, Stream. But if you use something else like Slack or some of these others, use what you've got. You don't necessarily need to create something new or build or buy something new, but make sure that you're communicating with people all along the way. Removing barriers. I try to make things as easy for people as possible. So this is, just a representation of the workshop toolkit in a box, we call it. And super clear, super easy for anybody who's, remotely familiar with marketing to pick up and run these content marketing workshops locally so that we can do more of these type activities. Check chat here real quick. Just a couple more slides here. Kind of showing them how it's done. This is one of the reasons for the global content marketing campaign, is to kind of show and tell what can be done with content marketing. And like I said, everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is great. I've never seen anything like this. Our competitors aren't doing this, and this will really benefit us locally. So if you show them how it's done, we're getting a lot more requests for this type of global content marketing campaign. So I think my world will probably get pretty busy. Proper measurement protocols are not always put into place at the outset of a campaign, and not properly analyzed throughout and after a campaign is concluded. So helping your marketers kind of see the value of their content by asking the right questions can go a long way in increasing adoption. So just having, having these conversations ahead of time before somebody embarks on a content marketing campaign can really help them get their mind going the first time they do one. So these are just, making sure that people have the measurement framework in place to show that they're doing a good job and that their content marketing campaigns are showing results. And then lastly, just some key takeaways. Everyone's journey is different. This was my journey, big company and very unusual circumstances. Hopefully you can take some of these things that I've talked about today and apply them to your situation, or maybe, something has jogged something in your thought process and you think it can be useful. Make a plan, but make it flexible. Again, you want to provide that framework, but make it flexible enough so it's not going to turn people off and say, oh, I can't do this. It doesn't apply to me. Communicate, educate, collaborate is kind of my motto. Make sure we're touching all of those bases. Get your tech in order. That was one of the first things I did was say, look, we need this technology in order to make content marketing work. And then role model, role model content marketing at the highest levels. Make sure your leaders are bought in and they're walking the walk and talking the talk about content marketing, because then others will look to those leaders and say, oh, I get it now, I understand. So that was it. I went over time. I didn't mean to talk that long.
No worries at all, Andi. That was great.
Sure.
So I have a few questions, but let me let others go first. I think, Jeff, do you want to ask your question?
Let me unmute myself. That was an awesome presentation. Thank you for sharing that. It must be a heck of a thing to coordinate across the world with different cultures, different values, etc., right? And things which are questioned when you were measuring conversion, KPIs. What was the team standardized on what's a conversion? If you can unpack that a little bit, I'm interested in that.
Yeah, and that is, so what qualifies as a conversion is more of a local decision, just because we do have different varying levels of digital maturity in different teams. And so, we have some very advanced teams who think of a conversion as, an actual sale. We have other teams who don't really have the capability to get to that final sale point. So maybe a conversion to them is somebody filled out a form and requested my newsletter. And so we have a lot of different pieces of data that we can measure around the organization, and those are more of a local decision. One of the things that they put into place as part of the operating model for this new company, for Corteva, is that decisions are made as close to the customer as possible. So very customer focused organization. And so I'm as far away as you can get from the customer, because I'm sitting in this global role, and I do go out and see, I did before the pandemic, go out and see customers throughout the world. But really the local teams know their customers the best. And so they need to make the decisions, test and learn, and take what they know to make decisions about what they're going to do in the marketing arena. Hopefully that answered the question.
Sorry, I had to step away because my battery was running low. So,
Oh,
but
no.
yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. That was helpful.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Hi, Andy. I had a question. It's Rich Schwerin. And first of all, thank you for presenting. Thank you, Dennis, for hosting as usual, and Jeff Myhushli for sponsoring. So I joined a little late. You might have covered this, but I have empathy, as I've worked on large content council initiatives across large enterprises before, and one of the contentious areas we've had to sort out is how you measure content performance. So kind of piggybacking on Jeff's question about KPIs, and I think your typo in the chat was API, but you meant KPI. Have you had to align thinking among stakeholders on how we measure all of this, and any thoughts on content measurement?
Yeah, so we do have some best practices in place around measuring content, but because everyone's working at a different level and working with different types of content, that can be difficult. Because we're rolling out the first global content marketing campaign just today, we do have a measurement framework as part of that helps to standardize some of that, but it will be a little bit of kind of test and learn and the measurement perspective, because people will be using this global content marketing campaign at various times over the next several years. And so, I won't all be getting data from everyone all at the same time. And so I'm going to try to standardize. I mean, we have a spreadsheet basically it's old school spreadsheet that they're going to have to fill out as they embark on sharing and using the content that we've created. And then I'm going to roll that up at the global level. And then hopefully that will give us some data on how are they doing at the local level, creating this data and utilizing and finding the data. And, does it really tell us the success of the campaign? We have three pieces of the journey that we're measuring against: awareness, education, and I forget what the third one is. My brain's a little fried. This has been a heck of a run getting these campaign out the door. But so we do have some standard things that we're going to measure, but we might have to tweak a little bit as we go along.
Real good. No, that's a smart approach, especially as you might centralize on a set of facts. We can have different opinions, but let's look at the same facts. I've been in situations with stakeholders in siloed business units who had their own dashboards and their own data, and then you spend all this time wasted on arguing as to what these numbers are versus what they mean. Anyway, real good. I have to drop, but thank you so much, Andy,
No problem.
Dennis, everyone. Appreciate it.
And there's a question in the chat around a link to the content. We're literally rolling it out to our internal teams today. So none of it is public yet. But if you follow me on Twitter at Hijinks Marketing, I will share some of it when I see it being posted. I think the US is one of the first teams that will be posting it. So here in a couple months. So I will share that on Twitter when it comes out.
Excellent. So Andy, you showed the example of the the bill content, and I would imagine there's some countries where the content is unique to that, is only relevant within that market. So how do you think about, in that case, in the case like the Brazil content, how do you think about whether it's relevant to other markets, and how do you then handle the localization?
Yeah, that's a good question. And that's how, in the past, we've been very siloed. Brazil did their stuff. They took care of their campaigns. They, and never, they shall not meet with any other country's content. But because we're starting to break down some of those silos, we are seeing some more collaboration between different marketing teams in different countries. So we do a lot of this sharing actually in our content council meetings. So if somebody's got a cool campaign that they just came out with or an idea, the European team just did a series where they interviewed female farmers. And so I had her present, the marketing manager, I had her present to the team, and everybody's like, oh, this is great. I want to use this, locally. I want to do something. So they'll take that campaign, and they may have a one-on-one conversation to learn a little bit more about it. And then they'll adapt it for their local needs, whether it be language or, particular aspects of their go-to-market strategy or whatever the case may be. So we are starting to break that down a little bit. Most teams, all teams are responsible for localization based on their own needs. So even the content that we're rolling out right now is, we've made it flexible enough so they can change the language, they can change out some of the elements to make it like a picture of a local farmer. So from an ethnicity perspective, or there's a picture of boots in one of them, maybe that's not the style of footwear that a farmer would wear in their country. And so they can change that out. So trying to make it a little bit flexible so that those things can be swapped out.
Good. Anyone else with questions? Feel free to unmute yourself if you have one, and don't be shy. So I had a question about the content council. What was it like to get people to agree to participate? And do you have any tips on how to encourage them to say yes?
Well, it helped that their leaders said, you will do this.
There you go.
There you go. No,
say no more.
Yeah, no, people were really excited. Most of the people I had worked with before, just because of my role, my previous role to this was leading digital marketing for Dow AgriSciences. So I was in a similar role, I was across everything, web, social, everything. Now I'm just focused on content marketing. So I knew several of them and knew that they would, they would be good participants in this. And it's just being relentless and, making people talk and calling on people and things like that. And like I said, everybody's super busy. We are resource constrained, but we definitely have good representation in our meetings, lots of great conversations. So we just celebrated 1 year in April this month, so that we've been together as a team. So it's been really well received, and more people have asked to join, and I'm like, sure, the more the merrier. So I think that's a good sign when people want to join your meetings.
For sure. I see Patty's unmuted. Do you have a comment or a question, Patty?
No, I think that was a great presentation, and it's quite an astounding operation to be trying to manage content around the world for different audiences.
Yeah, it's so funny because up until this campaign, I normally say I don't actually create content, but now I actually do create content. So my role has expanded a little bit to doing these global campaigns, and I think we'll do more of that because they are very well received. So
that's great.
Thank you.
Are you working on global campaigns yourself, Patty?
No, just
okay.
Local.
Okay.
That's hard enough.
Yeah. And Andy, you had that one slide with you had yourself on video and some content. Was that internal facing?
Yes, that's internal facing.
Okay.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I wanted to make sure that the content council, the idea of us as a team creating content. So we have one topic every month that we focus on. So you saw some of them on there early on. We did content audits. We've done SEO best practices. We've done basics of web content. And I ask for volunteers each month to create a piece of content that they think would be helpful for their fellow marketers. I don't put constraints on what that is. If they're familiar, if they're more, happy to do a blog post, they can do that. If they're more graphically inclined, they can do a infographic, they can do a video, whatever they want to do. And then we settle on, 4 or 5 pieces of content each month. But it's not only for, educating our marketers outside of the content council, but it's also a development opportunity for the council themselves. So sometimes people will pick a topic that they are familiar with, but other times they're looking to stretch, right? They're looking to learn themselves. And a good way to do that is to create content for others. And so there was kind of a dual purpose there in having our team create our own content internally. I mean, we do share some external links. Like I've got Mozcast on there for, from an SEO perspective, and some other external links, but it's more personal when it's done by somebody, and it's more applicable to our circumstances than maybe external content would be.
Got it. And then you showed like the Seros interactive page. Is everything internal facing in one place, like SharePoint or Teams or?
So
somewhere?
the Seros stuff is external facing. So those are our external, put on our external websites. I don't know if you're familiar with AEM, but we basically use what's called an open HTML component. And the experiences are created in Seros, and then it basically spits out an embeddable link. And we put that embeddable link in that open HTML component, and it renders directly on our page as an interactive piece of content. So we have a ton of people in Seros who are building those interactive experiences for their local websites. We built 87 websites in 18 months.
Wow, that's crazy.
Every country has their own website, and we have our website. And so I have lost so much sleep the last 3 or 4 years. I don't know if I'll ever get it back.
Wow, that's impressive. Any other questions? Going once. All right, I think that concludes it for today. Andy, thanks so much for joining us. That was a great
no problem.
talk.
It was nice chatting with you guys.
Yeah, best wishes I think you have an evening presentation for the campaign. So
8 p.m. tonight. Yeah, I had an 8 a.m. and an 8 p.m. They're both 90 minutes long. So
rest up over the weekend, I suppose.
I'm taking tomorrow off. I'm getting a massage.
Good idea. All right, and thanks everyone else for joining us. See you next time.
Bye.
Thank you.